In your interaction with people, you will come across different kinds of species of human, because the human family is made up of people with diverse characteristics and traits and all kinds of the strict descriptions. So when you interact with people, there are several things you will notice if you do pay attention. Therefore, it's imperative we look at the concept of the wheat and chaff. The wheat and the chaff. Well, I'm sorry to use this metaphor when I talk about human characteristics, but I mean, we know that there are hypocrites everywhere. We have sycophants everywhere. We have jesters and all kinds of people. Sometimes it's difficult to know who is who. When you interact with people, sometimes you just want to know if you are talking to the right audience or not. Because hypocrites will listen to you and agree with you. And right across the corner, they are agreeing with another voice that conflicts with yours. And sometimes we call that the green snake in the green grass mentality. So, as a leader, what do you do to save yourself from such occurrences? Because there's something we call controllable environment and uncontrollable environment. There are things that are predictable and there are others that are not. When you interact with people, as a leader, you have to have something called intuition. You should also have what is called a hunch. You have to have a hunch. You have to be able to look at situations and set up scenarios. Because when you set up scenarios, you cannot go wrong, because one of the scenarios will play out. If you are a brilliant leader, set up scenarios and keep those scenarios like you have your trump cards and everything. When the scenarios begin to play out, you already have a response for that scenario. So you can call them scenario 1, scenario 2, scenario 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You can have all those scenarios lined up. And you have to master those scenarios. Because you're not setting up a scenario because of one person. You are setting up the scenarios because they are scenarios that should exist. At some point or at some level, it can become a tool for, how do I put it? Conspiracy theories. So that's why I don't have any problem with conspiracy theories, or if they call someone a conspiracy theorist. It doesn't bother me because it exists. But the thing is, whoever has the microphone, that's what I call it, the microphone, that's who we're going to hear. Again, that brings me to the power of the microphone, which I'm going to talk about some other time. But the thing is, the person who talks the loudest, the person who has access to the medium of communication, the person who has the potential to reach out, that's who will influence you. So if I say you are a conspiracy theorist, you are. Unless you have a way to counter my narrative by what you do, not just what you say, by what you do. It's a label. People are labeled conspiracy theorists. And if they do not have access to mainstream media, then they are conspiracy theorists. But if they do have access to mainstream media, they can explain it away and turn the table on the accuser, and then the accuser becomes, the bad guy. These things are the mechanics of living in society and communicating. But they can also create failures among leaders. What you want to do is to make sure that you sharpen your hunch, sharpen your intuition. These things are sharpened. They are. I mean, you bring them with you to the world when you come, but they can be sleeping. They can be like dormant. Doesn't even exist pretty much. But when you begin to see the need to sharpen your hunch, don't look back. Sharpen your hunch. Sharpen your intuition. Be able to see a situation, and even in your sensibilities, you can even begin to interpret the situations you see. Give multiple interpretations. In fact, even go as far as giving a negative interpretation. Keep it. Don't say it out. Keep it in your head. Let those interpretations be in your head and use them and keep them and begin to watch so that they are all part of this. They are all part of the scenarios, one of which must play out. And sometimes scenarios are dynamic. They move from one end of the spectrum to the other. So if you stay with only one scenario and it has changed, being dynamic, you will lose out because you wouldn't even know when the scenarios change on the spectrum. Therefore, your hunch is important. Your intuition is important. And of course, you have to have what is called native intelligence. Native. It has to be native intelligence. That's to say, intelligence that is resident in you. It's resident. It's right there. So, you remember in physics what we called potential and kinetic energy. That's the way that that hunch or intuition is. Potential is on the inside, and when the need arises, you activate it and use it. But you will not know when to use it if you do not simulate by preparing the scenarios, being, I don't want to, being forefront, being brilliant about it. Yeah, allow me to say smart. Be smart. Be smart. Be brilliant. Be crafty. Work on your hunch. Create the scenarios. Line them up. And begin to watch your environment. So when you deal with people, you are ready to interpret the things coming out of those people. Because they might not know that you are watching and you are paying attention. They might not know. But you have to watch. You have to pay attention. You have to have the scenarios worked out and planned out and mastered so that when any scenario plays out, you are able to meet that scenario head on. Albeit subtly. It has to be subtle. It has to be subtle. That's leadership. As a leader, you do not engage in a fight. You don't engage in a fight. You don't antagonize. You don't victimize. You just don't get involved in any negative vituperations. You don't. You simply interpret things and act in line with your interpretation. When you deal with people, that's how to lead anyway. Be ready to understand, because some people can say something to you, but they mean something entirely different. So if you don't have this hunch or this intuition and knowledge of scenarios, you will take something you hear on the face value, and you will regret down the road because that's not what was being said. So when you hear something, allow the sometimes, not all the time, because I mean, if you there's always moderation. You don't have to do everything as an extremist. You have to moderate your whatever you do, but you have to have this in your arsenal. Let the conspiracy theorist in you come up. These things sometimes would look like adrenaline rush. Let it rush. It's internal. And you have to learn how to maintain a normal facial expression that does not give you out on an emotional level. So your face will remain the same, but your brain is working. Something is processing on the inside. You are looking around, and some people will think that you don't even know what's going on, but you have already circumscribed the entire situation. Human beings are different from any other thing you can see on this planet. That's why you have to be ready for the unpredictability of humanity. That's why you have to sharpen your hunch, sharpen your intuition, and don't throw away the conspiracy theory elements in life, because they're there. They are there. And when somebody calls you a conspiracy theorist, oftentimes the person calling you a conspiracy theorist is a conspiracy theorist, but trying to get you on the is it called defensive? Yes, defensive. Get you on the defensive side. So you begin to defend. But the person knows. So that is the intrigue that humanity can do. Therefore, in dealing with people, you have to prepare yourself as a leader, knowing that you have so many subordinates. Sometimes you might be leading an entity of about 300 people. Some people lead entities of about 1,000 people, 1,000 plus and all that, 5,000 people, and they're all responsible to you. Of course, when they get that many, you have lieutenants, you have deputy lieutenants, you have squadrons, and you have companies and all that. I just want to use the military jargon, battalion, and you segment them and categorize them and line them up in certain ways so that they will have people who are leading at those levels until they get to the leaders who report directly to you. You have to have your arsenal to be able to read your environment, read your subordinates, read your lieutenants, and be able to interpret the grapevine things seeping through your leadership ranks and echelons and coming over to you, because you still have to have your ears to the ground. Because everything needs to be cross-checked. Yeah, you have your lieutenants, yes, they are trustworthy, yes, but you got to be able to have a mechanism to cross-check, verify. But your hunch is important. Your intuition is important. And don't allow the things happening around you to go over your head when you are a leader. You are not a leader for nothing. There's a reason you're a leader. It's a reason. There are things you do to maintain your sanity, increase your knowledge, strengthen yourself, and make yourself a very stable personality. Be stable. Don't be shaken don't be shaken or thrown from one end of the place to the other. scampering for an understanding. You don't have to scamper for an understanding of anything. When things are coming out, you are interpreting them in real time. You are. And you have your scenarios lined up to deal with the things coming out. And you watch out for for the dynamism of some of those things, so that if they're dynamic, if they're changing, metamorphosing into something else, you are able to meet them at every stage, because it's just like chemicals, changing compositions. Anyway, I'm not going to overload this. The only thing I want to do today is that we look at the need to sharpen our hunch, sharpen our native intelligence, and sharpen our intuition, and be ready to respond to things with stability, without emotions, but releasing the right kind of responses. Don't take your intuition for granted. Don't take your hunch for granted. Do the right thing so that you will lead properly